Season 1 of Justified introduces U.S. Deputy Marshal Raylan Givens, who is transferred from Miami, Florida to Lexington, Kentucky after the bad publicity of shooting a mob hitman named Tommy Bucks in self-defense. In Lexington, Raylan works under an old colleague from the Academy, Chief Deputy Art Mullen, and fellow deputies Tim Gutterson and Rachel Brooks. Raylan is reluctant to return to Kentucky as he grew up in Harlan County and left behind a lot of emotional baggage. But that history is exactly why Art tasks Raylan with investigating dangerous white supremacist Boyd Crowder, Raylan's childhood friend who he forged a tight bond with while digging coal together in the local mines. Raylan quickly discovers that Boyd is actually using neo-Nazi ideals to attract white supremacists as a distraction for his true mission of robbing banks and local drug dealers. When Boyd's brother Bowman is killed by his abused wife Ava, Raylan rushes to Ava's home to protect her from Boyd's wrath. The confrontation ends with Raylan shooting Boyd, seriously injuring him and leading to his arrest. Raylan is reluctant to reunite with his unloving criminal father Arlo, who has constantly put his own gains over the well-being of his son. Raylan's mother died years ago, but Arlo married her sister Helen, a kind-hearted woman who tried to protect Raylan from his father's worst tendencies. With Boyd in prison, Raylan begins a romance with Ava. Meanwhile, he reconnects with his ex-wife Winona, who is now married to a bumbling real estate agent named Gary Hawkins. When Gary becomes deeply in debt to the Dixie Mafia, who send associates Emmett Arnett and Wynn Duffy to threaten Winona, Raylan intervenes. The Dixie Mafia back off from Gary, but the experience fractures his marriage with Winona, pushing her back into the arms of her ex-husband Raylan. Although Raylan ends his affair with Ava, the relationship complicates Boyd's criminal charges, leading to his release from prison, much to the dismay of Assistant U.S. Attorney David Vasquez. Out of prison, Boyd Crowder claims himself to be a changed man, and a devout man of God. He assembles a loyal congregation, including the dim-witted lackey Dewey Crowe, and they begin violently taking out local drug operations. This puts Boyd at odds with his criminal father Bo, and his cousin Johnny. Bo kills all of Boyd's followers except for Dewey, leaving Boyd devastated and turning his back on his newfound faith. Bo then shoots Johnny for beginning to waver in loyalty between Bo and Boyd. When Bo is tasked by the Miami mob to exact revenge against Raylan, the elder Crowder kidnaps Ava to lure the marshal into a trap. Raylan is forced to reluctantly work with his rival Boyd to confront Bo and save Ava. As the duo save Ava and Boyd prepares to kill his father, the group are attacked by hitmen from Miami. Bo is killed in the assault, while Raylan, Boyd, and Ava work together to fend off the attackers. As the season ends, Boyd chases after the remaining hitman, while Raylan is left contemplating his relationship with the criminal. Have you ever Googled yourself and were shocked to see your personal information on one of those public listing sites? Luckily, this video sponsor Aura is such an expert at keeping your personal and private data safe and secure that even Raylan Givens would be jealous. I just searched my phone number on Google and found a website with my name and every previous address I've ever lived at. It's truly insane and scary to think about how complete strangers can know so many personal details about me, but that's just the world that so many people live in today. Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they make it super hard to do. So let Aura handle it for you. You can even try it for free for 2 weeks using the link in the description. Aura also does so much more to protect you and your family from online threats you can't even see. And it's really easy to set up, so you don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. You get everything at one affordable price. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online so you can focus on your other tasks with a peace of mind. You can either let people online continue to exploit and profit off of your private information, or you can go to aura.com/recapandchill to start your 2-week free trial. Link is in the description. Now let's get back to the recap. In Season 2 of Justified, Raylan Givens sets his sights on a new criminal investigation against the Bennett family of Bennett County. Raylan has a history with the Bennetts, led by matriarch Mags Bennett and her sons Doyle, Dickey, and Coover. Mags runs a marijuana empire. Doyle is the corrupt chief of police who helps keep the eye of the law away from his family's business. Dickey is a weasel always looking to make a harebrained play of his own, and Coover is a simple-minded and volatile wildcard who Dickey brings along as his enforcer. Dickey also has a long-held bitterness toward Raylan for a teenage fight that resulted in Raylan permanently crippling Dickey's leg. When a local man named Walt McCready begins growing pot on Bennett land and alerts the police that a Bennett employee was sexually harassing his teenage daughter Loretta, Mags poisons Walt and decides to raise Loretta as her own. Loretta remains unaware of her father's death or Mags's hand in his demise, and quickly impresses Mags with her determination and business sense. Mags takes an intense liking to Loretta, greatly upsetting her jealous sons Dickey and Coover and putting them at odds with the teenage girl. Meanwhile, Boyd is once again trying to live an honest life. He moves in with Ava, who desperately needs help paying for her home, promising to conduct no criminal activities under her roof, and the two begin a romance. Boyd returns to work in the coal mine, where he eventually meets a crew of miners led by a man named Kyle, who wants Boyd's help in robbing the Black Pike Mining Company. Boyd reluctantly agrees, secretly aware that Kyle and his men intend to kill both Boyd and the mine's foreman, Shelby Parlow. During the heist, Boyd double-crosses his team, tricking Kyle and his men into blowing themselves up. For saving his life, Shelby agrees to protect Boyd from the police, allowing the reformed criminal to return home with enough money to save Ava's house from foreclosure. Following the heist, Boyd is seen as a hero and hired by Black Pike to act as an enforcer to help buy up land throughout the county. Boyd uses this to his advantage, making a deal with Mags and Arlo to drive up the price of land and forcing Black Pike to pay them obscene riches. Boyd's deal with Mags gives him free rein to conduct his criminal activities, and he quickly assembles a crew including his now wheelchair-bound cousin Johnny, his old friend Devil, and the good-for-nothing Arlo Givens. Not a part of Boyd's crew is the foolish Dewey Crowe, who makes a play to become a drug kingpin and finds himself swiftly arrested by Raylan. Meanwhile, Raylan begins working with State Trooper Tom Bergen to continue looking into the Bennett family. Discovering Walt's disappearance, Raylan suspects the Bennett's involvement and develops a protective fatherly bond toward the orphaned Loretta. When Loretta discovers that Coover has stolen her father's watch, she realizes that her new makeshift family had in fact murdered her father. To protect his family secret, Coover attacks Loretta. Raylan arrives, saving Loretta and killing Coover, leading to the discovery of Walt's body. Although she is upset by her son's death, Mags is even more devastated to lose her adopted daughter Loretta, who is then placed in foster care. Mags blames Dickey for steering Coover down the wrong path and disowns him from the family business. And when Boyd's crew begins stealing from Dickey's own marijuana business, the villainous Dickey snaps, killing Helen for revenge. Devastated by Helen's death, Raylan contemplates murdering Dickey in cold blood, but ultimately backs off. With her family business crumbling around her, Mags rededicates herself to her remaining family and seeks revenge against Raylan and Boyd. Boyd's crew become the targets of Dickey's hitmen, resulting in Ava being shot. Boyd then seeks revenge on the Bennetts for nearly killing Ava, while Loretta flees her foster home to enact vengeance of her own. Raylan convinces Boyd not to kill Dickey, leading to his arrest, and tracks Loretta to Mags's home. When Doyle tries to save his mother and kill Raylan, the other marshals arrive and kill the corrupt cop. Raylan then convinces Loretta to not kill Mags, but after informing the Bennett matriarch that Doyle is dead and her business is over, Mags decides to drink the same poison she used to murder Walt. As the season comes to a close, Winona reveals to Raylan that she is pregnant, and the two plan to leave Harlan to live a safer, simpler life to raise their child. In Season 3 of Justified, Winona realizes that despite Raylan's promises, he'll never be able to let go of his gun and badge. And so she leaves Raylan. Raylan then dedicates himself once again to his job, now looking into the Dixie Mafia and their business dealings with a newly arrived enforcer from Detroit named Robert Quarles. On orders of the Detroit crime boss Theo Tonin, Quarles murders Dixie Mafia member Emmett Arnett, but spares Wynn Duffy to help take over the Oxycontin trade in Harlan County. Meanwhile, Boyd Crowder publicly assaults Raylan as part of a plan to be sent to the same prison as Dickie Bennett. Inside the prison, Boyd threatens to kill Dickie if he doesn't reveal the location of Mags's fortune. Dickie reveals that Mags ran her money through a local crime boss from Noble's Holler named Elston Limehouse. Before Boyd has a chance to kill Dickie for shooting Ava, Raylan realizes Boyd's ruse and has his frenemy released from prison. Boyd reassembles his crew, and while searching for a way to steal Mags's money from Limehouse, the ambitious Crowder also sets his sights on taking over the Harlan County drug trade, putting him directly in Quarles' crosshair. Quarles pays Harlan County's corrupt Sheriff Napier to crack down on Boyd's various business ventures, dampening the spirits of his crew. When Devil is swayed over to Quarles' side, Boyd and Johnny are forced to murder their backstabbing friend. To combat the sheriff constantly interfering with his business, Boyd decides to back Shelby Parlow as the new sheriff in the upcoming election, knowing Shelby would be in his pocket as he owed Boyd his life. Ultimately, Boyd successfully rigs the election, ensuring Shelby's victory. Meanwhile, a man named Delroy, owner of the local brothel Audrey's, attempts to murder some of his employees that he had forced to commit a robbery gone wrong. One of those employees, Ellen May, escapes Delroy and seeks shelter with Ava. When Delroy comes looking for Ellen May, Ava murders him and tells Boyd her plan to take over as the new owner of Audrey's. As Quarles grows more violent and erratic in his schemes, his bosses in the Detroit mob begin to see him as a liability. When Raylan confronts Sammy Tonin, the son of Detroit crime boss Theo Tonin, about Quarles' various crimes, the mob decides that it is time to cut ties with Quarles. In response, Quarles finds and murders Gary Hawkins, framing Raylan as the killer. When Raylan is able to clear his name, a defeated Quarles slips into an Oxycontin addiction and desperately seeks for a way out. Realizing that Quarles' days are numbered, Duffy makes a deal with the Detroit mob to kill Quarles and take over his position. Quarles makes a deal of his own, promising to pay Theo Tonin $500,000 to spare his life. Meanwhile, a crew of corrupt guards break Dickie and his prison pal Dewey Crowe out of prison to retrieve Mags's fortune. Limehouse claims that all that is left of the fortune is $40,000, which Dickie doesn't believe, before Raylan takes out the corrupt guards and hauls Dickie and Dewey back to prison. When Dickie is released from prison due to a lack of evidence for killing Helen, he discovers the true location of Mags's money, in the possession of her beloved Loretta McCready. As Dickie goes after Loretta, Raylan gets to her first, protecting the girl and arresting Dickie once again. As Quarles goes to confront Boyd at his bar to end their rivalry once and for all, Trooper Tom Bergen arrives at the scene to intervene. When Raylan arrives, he finds his friend Tom is dead, with Johnny claiming that the fleeing Quarles was the culprit. Raylan chases a desperate Quarles to Noble's Holler, where he has kidnapped 2 children and is threatening their lives if Limehouse doesn't pay him $500,000 to pay off Theo Tonin. During the confrontation, Limehouse gets the upper hand and cuts off Quarles' arm. As the villain bleeds out, he reveals to Raylan that Arlo was in fact Tom's killer. As the season comes to a close, Johnny sees an opportunity to take over the Crowder family business for himself, and secretly informs the police of Boyd killing Devil. Boyd is arrested for Devil's murder, though when Arlo is arrested for Tom's murder, he also confesses to killing Devil in a selfless act to save Boyd. Boyd is exonerated and released, while Raylan is left to contemplate that his senile father Arlo mistook Tom for Raylan, thinking he was shooting his own son to save Boyd's life. In Season 4 of Justified, Raylan discovers a mysterious bag in the walls of his father's house, containing the ID of a man named Waldo Truth. Chief Art Mullen remembers the name from a case he worked in the 1980s, in which Waldo Truth's body was found after falling from a plane with a large stash of cocaine. Knowing he was nearing retirement and wanting a big case to end his career on, Art becomes determined to solve the mystery of Waldo Truth. The Marshals' investigation eventually leads them to discover that Waldo was working with a mysterious man named Drew Thompson, who is believed to be alive and well somewhere in Kentucky. Also looking for Drew Thompson Thompson is Theo Tonin and the Detroit mob, who want the mystery man dead after he witnessed Tonin murder a federal witness decades prior. Tonin tasks Boyd Crowder and Wynn Duffy to find Drew Thompson or die trying. Though reluctant allies, Wynn Duffy isn't fully loyal, as he also cuts a deal with the backstabbing Johnny Crowder, promising that if he could deliver Drew, Wynn would assist Johnny in killing Boyd and supplanting him as boss. But the threat of Theo Tonin isn't Boyd Crowder's only worry. A new preacher in town named Billy has been luring locals away from a life of crime and drugs, putting a serious damper on Boyd's business. Boyd goads Billy in front of his congregation to handle a poisonous rattlesnake, which kills him, but that doesn't end Boyd's troubles. The prostitute Ellen May has become a devout Christian thanks to Billy's preaching, leading Boyd and Ava to fear that she will confess to Ava murdering Delroy. And so Boyd tasks his old friend from the army, Colt, to murder Ellen May and ensure her silence. As Colt searches for her, he slips further into his drug addiction, eventually crossing paths and murdering a fellow veteran who just so happens to be friends with Marshal Tim Gutterson. Arlo Givens, a former associate of Drew Thompson, is offered a full pardon for providing information on the mystery man, but Raylan would rather see his father rot in prison, emboldening him to solve the case faster and make his father's intel worthless. When Raylan offers another imprisoned associate of Thompson the same deal as Arlo, the prisoner instead murders Arlo to ensure his silence. Art worries for Raylan's mental health following his father's death, but Raylan insists that he is unbothered. Helping Raylan track down Drew Thompson are Constable Bob Sweeney, who is obsessed with Raylan, and Sheriff Shelby Parlow, who refuses to continue his alliance with Boyd, insisting his debt is paid and he now wants to be a good and proper sheriff. Shelby also finds the fleeing Ellen May and promises to protect her from Boyd and Colt. As Raylan and Boyd each draw closer to uncovering the truth about Drew Thompson, they eventually discover that he is in fact Sheriff Shelby Parlow. His cover blown, Thompson flees with Ellen May. With nowhere to run, Thompson seeks out the help of Elston Limehouse, offering $15,000 for the protection of Ellen May. Limehouse instead apprehends Thompson, intending to auction him off to the highest bidder. Knowing Boyd was also searching for Ellen May, Limehouse places a cost of $300,000 on her and Thompson's heads. Only having enough money to buy one of his targets, Boyd intends on buying Ellen May to protect Ava, but Ava refuses this deal, and the pair instead pay to take Drew Thompson. Boyd tasks Colt with delivering Drew Thompson to Theo Tonin's right-hand man, Nicky Augustine, but the marshals arrive just in time to capture Drew for themselves. Despite finally having Drew Thompson in custody, the trouble isn't quite over, as Thompson refuses to cooperate with the marshals and bring down Theo Tonin unless Ellen May is protected, and so the marshals race to find and save Ellen May. The former prostitute seeks out Cassie, the sister of the deceased preacher Billy, and confesses to helping Ava dispose of Delroy's body. Colt arrives to kill both Ellen May and Cassie, but Tim manages to reach the women and kill Colt, avenging his murdered Marine friend. With both Drew Thompson and Ellen May in custody, things have become seriously complicated for both Boyd Crowder and Theo Tonin. Nicky Augustine sends his henchmen, led by a man named Picker, to attack Winona and force Raylan to lead them to Drew Thompson. Raylan and Winona kill the henchmen, though Picker escapes. Knowing Raylan wants vengeance against Augustine for the attempt on Winona's life, Art suspends Raylan and demands he stand down. Despite this, Raylan concocts his own plan to enact revenge. Raylan meets with Nicky and goads him into confessing his desire to kill the annoying Sammy Tonin and take his place as Theo Tonin's successor. And that's when it's revealed that Raylan had secretly called Sammy to the meeting. Hearing Nicky's betrayal, Sammy murders the backstabber, giving Raylan the justice he sought. Meanwhile, Boyd races to find a way to absolve Ava of murdering Delroy. He convinces the powerful and corrupt funeral parlor owner Lee Paxton to help switch Delroy's body with another, ruining the case against Ava. As Ava swaps the bodies, Paxton and his corrupt deputy ally Mooney betray Boyd and arrest Ava. Boyd is devastated by his love's arrest, though when Duffy does deliver the good news that Detroit has given Boyd control of all heroin distribution in Harlan County. In Season 5 of Justified, Dewey Crowe is released from prison and awarded $300,000 by the state due to his run-in with the corrupt prison guards. Dewey buys Audrey's from Boyd and celebrates his luck, though it's only a matter of time until word reaches Dewey's cousins in Florida. Down on his luck, criminal Daryl Crowe decides to abandon Florida and take advantage of Dewey's new fortune. Coming along with Daryl is his brother Danny, his sister Wendy, Wendy's son Kendall, and enforcer John Baptiste. Wendy Crowe is a lawyer who has spent her life and career getting her family out of trouble, though she has allowed Daryl to raise her son Kendall as a brother. One of Daryl's first acts in Harlan is to sniff out an employee at Audrey's named Wade Messer, who has been skimming a large portion of the business's profits. Daryl forces Dewey to murder Wade, which draws federal attention to the Crowes, as Wade is revealed to have been an informant. The hot-headed Crowes also begin fighting amongst themselves, with a temperamental Danny murdering John Baptiste and threatening Kendall to help him cover up the death. As Raylan begins investigating the Florida native Crowes, he reluctantly stays away from Winona and his newborn daughter Willa, who have relocated to the Sunshine State. After meeting Loretta's social worker Allison, Raylan strikes up a new romance. Meanwhile, Chief Deputy Art Mullen begins investigating Nikki Augustine's death and discovers Raylan's involvement, fracturing their working and personal relationship. Meanwhile, Boyd Crowder has many major problems to contend with. He frames Lee Paxton and the newly minted Sheriff Mooney for various criminal activities and orchestrates their deaths, ruining the case against Ava. Unfortunately, moments before her release, Ava is attacked by a guard who makes false accusations against her, keeping her locked up indefinitely. The harshness of prison hardens Ava, who breaks up with Boyd and does everything she can to stay alive, amongst a prison full of inmates who want to see her dead. Making things worse for Boyd is his struggling drug empire. Raylan and Art find and arrest Theo Tonin, while Boyd and Duffy discover that the Canadian mob are now working with Picker, killing Sammy Tonin and taking over Boyd's drug supply. When Boyd makes a new deal for heroin with Korean gangsters in Mexico, Johnny intervenes to try to cut a deal of his own. Boyd hires the Crowes to assist in his Mexican standoff with Johnny's gang, resulting in Boyd acquiring the heroin and murdering Johnny once and for all. Tired of being bossed around by his villainous cousins, Dewey Crowe betrays everyone and steals some of the heroin for himself. As in typical Dewey Crowe fashion, things once again fall apart, and Dewey loses the heroin, ownership of Audrey's, all of his remaining money, and is arrested for the murder of Wade Messer. As the Crowe family begin to fracture, Raylan arrives to arrest Danny for drug possession. In Danny's attempt to fight back, he is killed by his own knife. Wendy finally wants to break away from her family and protect her son, but Daryl attacks her and convinces Kendall to remain loyal to him. Wanting to lure Raylan into a final confrontation, Daryl goes after Allison, though he is unaware that Art is protecting her, leading to the Crowes shooting the chief deputy. Art survives the attempt on his life, but got no good look at his shooter, and so Daryl convinces Kendall to take the blame, knowing he would get a lesser sentence as a minor. With no other options, Raylan convinces attorney David Vasquez to have Kendall tried as an adult, scaring Wendy into cooperating with the marshals and wearing a wire to secretly obtain Daryl's confession. When Daryl realizes Wendy's betrayal, he threatens her, though Wendy gets the upper hand, murdering her brother. As the season comes to a close, Rachel Brooks is made the interim chief deputy, and alongside Vasquez, the marshals make it their goal to finally bring down Boyd Crowder. Art informs Raylan that he can now transfer back to Miami to be closer to his family, but Raylan would be staying in Kentucky until closing the case on Boyd. And Raylan has acquired a new key asset in finally bringing down his longtime rival, orchestrating Ava's release from prison to serve as the marshal's secret informant. In Season 6 of Justified, Dewey Crowe is once again released from prison, and Raylan hopes to use him as an informant against Boyd Crowder, in addition to testifying as a witness to Boyd murdering Johnny. But Dewey wants nothing more than to rejoin his old friend Boyd in his criminal exploits, and so he turns down Raylan's offer. But Boyd is a much different man than the last time Dewey saw him. He has grown more paranoid and less hopeful of a happy life in Harlan now that his relationship with Ava is over. And so the distrustful Boyd murders Dewey and hides his body. With Dewey no longer an option, Raylan leans hard into Ava as an informant, threatening to send her back to prison if she didn't provide hard evidence on Boyd's crimes. And so Ava reluctantly resumes her romantic relationship with Boyd. And just what is Boyd Crowder up to? When Duffy and Catherine Hale, the widow of his former mentor Grady, task Boyd with robbing a powerful Dixie Mafia crime boss named Avery Markham, who has recently returned to Kentucky with plans to form a massive legal cannabis empire. Markham left Kentucky 15 years prior, following the arrest and death of his partner and best friend Grady Hale. Back in Harlan, Avery begins a relationship with Catherine, who he has always harbored a secret love for, unaware that she is plotting to rob him behind his back. Adding even more tension to their relationship is the fact that both Markham and Catherine suspect the other as being the snitch that got Grady arrested. Art Mullen, still recovering from his gunshot wound, discovers that it was in fact Wynn Duffy who snitched on Grady Hale all those years ago, and so the marshals lean on him to provide information on everything Boyd, Catherine, and Avery are getting up to. Avery Markham's plan for his cannabis empire involves buying up as much land as possible, and if the landowner doesn't want to sell, Markham has his men murder them. First working under Markham are a team of mercenaries, Tie Walker, Seabass, and Choo Choo, though they are all eventually killed due to their reckless actions. Avery then replaces them with Boone, a young psychopathic gunslinger who becomes obsessed with proving he is a quicker draw than Raylan Givens. Avery Markham soon finds he has competition in the Harlan cannabis business as Loretta McCready tries to build her own empire. She offers to buy land from the locals to grow her pot, but allow them to keep their homes and make money working her fields. Boyd Crowder voices his support for Loretta amongst the locals, bolstering her power. This causes Markham to set his sights on taking Loretta down, while Boone develops a sadistic obsession with the teenager. Boyd eventually discovers that Markham keeps his money inside a safe in the basement of a restaurant known as the Pizza Portal. He comes up with a plan to use Harlan's series of mining tunnels to drill into the basement from below. Boyd's crew for the heist includes brothers Carl and Earl, the Pig, and Ava's uncle Zachariah. Unbeknownst to Boyd, Zachariah has long hated the villainous Crowder family and constantly tries to sabotage the heist to rid Ava of Boyd once and for all. When the Pig discovers Zachariah's plotting, Zachariah murders him. As Boyd gets closer to stealing the money, he discovers that Ava has been ratting him out to Raylan behind his back. Despite this, he reaffirms his love for her and asks her to start a new life with him after acquiring Markham's money. During the heist, Zachariah betrays Boyd and flees, and although Boyd escapes with his life, Avery becomes aware of his scheme and prepares to move his fortune. And so Boyd comes up with a new plan, kidnapping Catherine and ransoming her for $10 million. As Avery pays to free his love, Boyd reveals that Catherine was the mastermind behind the original heist. Catherine explains that she was only acting out of revenge for Grady's death, which she no longer suspects Avery of being a part of. And so, Avery and Catherine reconcile. When Catherine learns that Duffy was in fact Grady's snitch, she seeks out her former business partner to kill him, leading to a violent confrontation between Catherine and Duffy's right-hand man Mikey. The fight ends with both Catherine and Mikey dead, leaving Duffy to sneak away. As Boyd takes the money to Ava to run away together to start their new life, Ava betrays him, shooting Boyd and escaping with the money. As Boyd is arrested, Zachariah races Ava to the hills of Harlan, desperately searching for a way to sneak her and the money out alive. Boyd escapes from custody, and Ava's betrayal has left him more violent and erratic than ever, killing anyone, including his former ally Carl, who stands in his way. Knowing that Ava is in danger and that she is the key to finding Boyd, Raylan makes it his main goal to find her. But a USA David Vasquez accuses Raylan of conspiring with his former lover to steal the $10 million together. And so Raylan is forced to leave behind his gun and badge, going rogue to take down Boyd Crowder once and for all. Boyd eventually catches up to Zachariah, who sacrifices himself to allow Ava to flee with a portion of the money. Avery Markham captures Ava, demanding to know where the rest of the money is and using her to lure Boyd into a final confrontation. As everything comes to a head, Art gives Raylan his gun and badge back, trusting him to save the day and act responsibly. Boyd is first to arrive at Avery's hideout, killing the crime boss and confronting Ava over her betrayal. Raylan arrives to stop Boyd from killing her, and the longtime rivals have their final confrontation. Boyd tries to goad Raylan into shooting him in cold blood, which Raylan considers but denies, instead arresting Boyd and turning him over to the proper authorities. As Raylan transports Ava to prison, they are attacked by Boone, who finally gets his wish to engage in a gun draw against Raylan. Both men fire at the same speed, with Raylan being grazed in the head, while Boone is mortally wounded and bleeds out in front of a satisfied Loretta. Following the battle, Ava steals Raylan's car and escapes once again. 4 years later, Raylan has transferred to the Miami office and is co-parenting his daughter Willa with Winona. Raylan finally tracks down Ava, living a simpler life raising her and Boyd's secret son. Raylan deduces that Wynn Duffy had helped her escape Harlan in exchange for the rest of Avery Markham's money. Raylan then leaves Ava behind, promising to keep her son a secret from Boyd and allow her to continue living in peace. As the series comes to a close, Raylan pays his old friend and rival Boyd Crowder a visit in prison. Raylan lies to Boyd, saying that Ava is dead in order to protect her from Boyd's reach. Despite their years of antagonism, the two men find comfort in speaking to each other once again, as they share an undeniable bond. Despite the men they have both become, nothing will change that all those years ago, they dug coal together.